Okay, so as the book discussed, the Panopticon came about as a result of a plague in France, of all things. Basically, through the course of several different events, it was discovered that the more a society was watched, the more disciplined that society was, the less likely they were to deviate. So, Panopticons were created around this central idea that there was a central place for authority so that they can watch everybody in the population, and that the more people felt watched, the more less likely they were to deviate. And so prisons were kind of constructed around this idea of the Panopticon. Today, modern architecture doesn't really have the Panopticon feel because there isn't a central tower. But the premise, the idea of the Panopticon is still very much alive in our society. So I am standing in a classroom today. And as you can see, this classroom is built with the idea that there is, it's sort of elevated. I don't know if you can see that. And everybody in the room can see the central figure, which is, of course, myself. As the person of authority, I'm the one that has to be able to see everything that's going on. So even if you're that person that sits way back there in the back row, I can still see what's happening. And as such, that creates a very disciplined society. A very disciplined classroom, because you never quite know if you're being watched or if you're going to get in trouble or not. We see this throughout. Today, we see this a lot with modern technology. Even though we don't have the Panopticon, surveillance is sort of taken over as the new Panopticon. So if you look above me, you see we have a camera. In fact, there are several cameras in this room, some you can see and some you can't, that lets you know that there is always someone watching. Now, think about what that does for us in terms of a disciplined society, when you never quite know if your cell phone or your smart TV or your neighbor is surveilling you. So even though the Panopticon doesn't exist in a structured form anymore, there are elements of it that still exist. Some elements exist in the form of a classroom. We still see some elements of it in prison systems, and even sometimes in elements of workplaces. Now, as we progress through the next several chapters, we're going to discuss how the premise of the idea of being watched, and the more you are watched, the more disciplined you are, has influenced modern ideas, such as segregation, Jim Crow laws, and modern prison systems as well. So we'll continue to explore this idea and how it affects stratification, social class, and even race relations here in America.